Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Thursday, the 22nd of August. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by a full squad again. Delighted to say that Chris Jack joins us. How are we doing, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. We're almost at the end of the transfer window. We've nearly made it, gents. We're almost there.
Yeah, we're almost there, and there's seem to be galloping up pace with new links as well, which we'll get stuck into shortly. Stevie joins us as well from his loft. How's it going, Stevie?
I'm good, Derek. Do you know how I feel this morning, Derek? I feel like, remember, like in school where they picked teams and you were last and people forgot about you and stuff. That's how I feel this morning, Derek.
Yep. Stevie's alluding to the fact I forgot he was on this morning, folks. So I'll take the heat for that one. So, thank you to Chris for reminding me that Stevie was due on the show this morning. So, good to see you.
Always rely on your friends, Stevie. Always rely on your friends.
Anyway, right, let's get stuck in, lads. Lots to talk about, and we'll start with transfers, of course. As I mentioned, a number of players have been linked in the last few days. One player who won't be coming is Abdallah Sima. Myself and Joshua discussed him yesterday with news from France suggesting that Stade Brest were keen on loaning him from Brighton. That move has now materialised. He'll spend the season on loan over at the Ligue 1 side. He will be playing in the Champions League this season. And we won't see him in a Rangers jersey this season, unfortunately. I'm not too sure if there's I don't know if there's an option to buy with regards to that. I think it's just a straight loan, of course, out of contract at the end of the season. So it will be intriguing to see what happens and next summer, if you like. But Abdallah Sima won't be a Rangers player this season, Chris. Disappointed at that. I know that a number of supporters are.
I think even more disappointed when you see the manner of that deal. If he had gone for £6-7 million, then you say, well, Rangers, given the work that still needs done, given the tight finances, you can understand why it's perhaps out with their reach. When you see it as another loan deal, you then wonder, well, was that something that Rangers could have potentially done? It was only a couple of weeks ago that the manager, he threw Seema's name in. I can't remember what press conference it was. He kind of threw it in and said, almost a case of, no, we've not signed Abdallah yet, or that one's not dead yet. In effect, clearly, also Rangers haven't been able to get it over the line. Disappointed because I think we do need another option in those wider areas. We know what Sima can do. We know the quality that he has. We know what he can produce. If it's not going to be him, and obviously it's not now, Rangers do need to go and strengthen. For me, they have to go and strengthen that wide area. The options that they've got are not good enough. Now, I think as we've discussed before, and I'm sure as will come up over the next half hour, they do need players to move on for that to happen. So maybe it was just a timing issue. No, maybe Seaman and Brighton wanted that deal to happen just now, and Rangers just couldn't guarantee it because maybe they have to get a Matondo away, maybe they have to get a Scott Wright away before that can happen. So I think it's a disappointing one because the manager clearly liked Abdallah Sima. He clearly benefited and liked his loan spell at Rangers. And if it was going to be a loan, it did look a decent fit, but ultimately one that's not meant to be.
Yeah, I wanted him back at the club, Stevie, but I can understand even from his own personal side of things. I mean, he's playing in a much more better league than Scottish football. There's no doubt about it. And he's playing in the Champions League, which Rangers aren't. So I can understand his reasons if he wanted to go over there and take that option up. But I was sort of hoping that we'd see him in a Rangers jersey again, and it's not to be at this moment in time.
No, it isn't. Disappointing. This is why you never fall in love with a lone player, isn't it? But
yep.
I think Champions League exit has basically killed off any hope of that kind of deal being done. Brighton would want him playing at the highest level as well. Only a year left. They'll want to maximise his value next summer. They've obviously taken up that 12-month contract option they had on him. So I think, unfortunately, it was just unrealistic for us. I think this is a kind of deal that just comes too early for us in what we are trying to do restructurally and wages-wise and things like that, because I think that there's too many high earners still there, not providing for Rangers, not doing enough. And I think when you manage to empty them, which the club are currently trying to do, I think the transfer market opens up a wee bit for them, Derek. So it's no surprise that these moves are now all in the offing, that Rangers are now trying to go into the transfer market and try and pick up some players, which obviously we'll go on to discuss. But Rangers are restructuring, and with that, and they are ripping up this team more or less in this wage bill and everything else. So with that, there's going to be players that they've missed out on. Unfortunately, this summer they've missed out on quite a few, it looks like, when you go back to thinking about Jose Cordoba and things like that. So it's a difficult one, and it's difficult to take, and it's one that I think everybody would want Abdallah Sima back if the deal was right for Rangers. But this is the times we now live in. We're living well within our means, or we're going to start to. So you're going to find that stuff like this is going to happen.
Yep. Other players, some players, of course, Rangers need to ship some players out, Chris. According to the Daily Mail this morning, Rabbi Matondo is on the radar of Blackburn Rovers. Now, there have been reports down south that Leeds United are keen on him. It's now emerged that Blackburn Rovers might be a likely destination for Matondo. They have spelt his name wrong, right enough, so that is a red flag there. But would you be surprised to see him be a Rangers player come the close of the window? There seemed to be a lot of noise about him departing the club, Chris.
I think Rangers have to move him on. Though Stevie mentioned the higher earners there that aren't contributing to justify the wages. I think Matondo falls into that particular category. He's someone who has had enough chances now. I think now in his third season here, there have been flashes, there have been moments. I think back to the Old Firm goal last year, European games at the start of the campaign. There's these wee moments where you think there's something good in Rabbi Matondo for the money that Rangers have invested in him in terms of the transfer fee they paid for him and the wages. There's not enough there. There's not enough to say he's worth another crack. Just not consistent enough in those moments. Potentially a player that can operate at the right level for Rangers, but those moments are too few and far between. Rangers need people who are more consistent, who deliver more offer, who are able to provide that level of goal and assist that the team has needed for several seasons. So if they could do a deal to move him on, I think it would be a good bit of business. Probably there'll be a lot of people talking about the transfer fee and what's he actually worth. I'd be surprised if Rangers get the $3 million or so back that they paid for him, given the contract situation now. But like Connor Goldson, for example, like other players that have moved on, it's more about the wages. It's what can you do with one of the high earners off the wage bill. We know the wage bill in general has come down, but with another one off that bill, what can you then go and do with that cash?
We've seen it in flashes from Matondo, Stevie, but not enough to justify the wage that he's been paid every week and the outlay, as Chris mentioned, that Rangers paid initially for his services. I don't think he suits generally what Philippe Clement is looking to do. Rangers wouldn't be hard to deal with, I don't think, if a club is to bid for Rabbi Matondo. Would you be sad to see him go?
No. Listen, I think Rabbi Matondo does suit what Philippe Clement's trying to do. I think the issue with Rabbi Matondo is he's just consistently not good enough. You see it in flashes, and he is capable. Look, we've seen it. Goals against Hibs, Celtic, things like that. Goals in Europe. I think it was PSV he scored in that 2-2 game. So he is by far good enough, but he's not consistent enough, Derek. And I just, at times he really frustrates me because he's got pace to burn. And if you look back to that cup final last year when he came on, pace to burn, he's sizing up Alistair Johnson at right back and he's going backwards. So I don't need that in my team, and I think that's where it becomes kind of an issue. And listen, wages dominates everything we discuss, but he's one of, I think, 4 or 5 when you include Cantwell, Hadji, Ben Davis, that are on such a big wage for Rangers, and we're getting no value. And if you remember the conversations we started having November, Christmas time about this very subject, Derek, and I was quite vocal on it, that players at Rangers are too highly paid and we're not getting enough out of them. Rangers have managed to move on quite a few of them this summer, but if you can add the ones that I've mentioned to that before the window closed, and I think it will be difficult, but all of a sudden this wage bill they've taken a right good chunk out of it, and they've started to restructure the way they want to go. So I think the issue is that at the moment we're kind of in the middle of an eye of a storm in regards to Rangers transfers, because they're literally trying to clear out and restructure, put in a new wage cap, do all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, we're impatiently wanting people in the door for better value and urgently better quality as well. Let's not forget, it's not only about putting players out, Derek and Chris. We urgently need signings in, and we urgently needed signings in before we started ripping this team up. So that's still the case. We have, best part of over a week to do it. And I still think we need another half dozen out the door, including the 4 I mentioned, which will be difficult. And then you're looking at getting 2 or 3 in that can really make the difference, which again is going to be massively difficult. There's a lot of work to be done that hasn't been done because of the rate of the market and how slow it's been. But unfortunately, Derek, Rabbi Matondo definitely falls into the bracket of nice guy, good at flashes and in spells, but consistently not good enough for Rangers. Has had his opportunity, like Chris says, has never consistently taken it. So with all that said, you're definitely looking to move him on. As for transfer fee, and people will shout at me for this, I take anywhere around £1 million, just to get him off the wage bill. And it's another deal you can put down to previous mismanagement, Ross Wilson and stuff like that. 3 million on him, 4 million on Ben Davis, 25,000 plus a week. Like, it's just crazy deals, handing them out like confetti in that little period as well. So
yeah,
that's something that we've moved away from. That's something that's dramatically changed, and we're going for value for money. So with that is going to need to come a wee bit of patience.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be intriguing to see how he gets on. I mean, as I mentioned there, Leeds and Blackburn, a couple of championship teams interested in Rabbi Matondo. I can see him doing pretty well down there, but it just hasn't quite worked for Rangers. A few comments coming in. Love this. Just when we talk transfers, Christopher says, don't know why I tune in every day just to have my day ruined, but here I am. So there you go. Good to have your company, Christopher, on this Thursday morning. Right, let's talk. Well, another player that's been linked with the move away, and it's sort of heating up, is that of Yanis Hadji. We said yesterday how their chairman said he was a hot ticket on the transfer market. Now their president, Viral Moldovan, what a player he was in his day, by the way, he said, Yanis Hadji is a player of great value. I think every club wants him. There are certain discussions. I hope he is interested in coming to Rapid. That's the most important thing. Who wouldn't want Yanis Hadji? So that is what he had to say on that. So Rapid very keen on Yanis. I said yesterday, his father's club is Stoia Bucharest. So I've spoken to a few Romanian journalists, and they say it would take some cojones for Hadji to move to Rapid, to a rival club. But they seem to be genuinely interested, Chris. It's all about meeting Rangers' valuation, though. But Yanis Hadji is an interesting one. As the days trickle by, Rangers need to get him out the door.
They do. Interesting, that quote there saying, who wouldn't want Yanis Hadji? Well, turns out Philippe Clement is the short answer to that one. I think the manager has made it fairly clear in the last few weeks that Hadji's not part of the plans, whether that's in terms of what he brings to the side. I have a feeling that the wages situation is playing a large part in that particular discussion as well. So he has to move on. And Yanis is at an age where he cannot afford just to sit in the Rangers reserves and play B team games. Now he's shown up well in these B team games, but of course he's going to people saying, he's playing really well against Derby, or he's playing really well against the X, Y, and Z at the training ground. Well, he's a Romanian internationalist. He's clearly got quality. He's playing at the Euros this summer. If he doesn't show up well in these B team games, then there's something very, very wrong. You cannot read much into these just because he's scoring goals and there's some nice passes of play in there. Doesn't mean to say that he's then going to make a break for the Rangers first team. Manager clearly doesn't fancy him. It's the best thing for all parties that he moves on. I think he does still have a lot to offer the game. Clearly doesn't still have a lot to offer Rangers, and wherever he goes, I do wish him well. I hope he goes and he kicks on again and goes and shows everybody what he can do. As a point I saw raised a couple of times on social media yesterday about him playing in the B team. Interesting that Yanis has decided to play these games and is looking to keep himself fit, match sharp, is obviously, I say, showing up well in them as you would expect. But the other player in that situation, Todd Cantwell, is not playing for the B team. Is just training. Both of them, as we know, are taking up wages that the manager can and wants to use differently. And both of them are players that have to move on over this next 8 days or so that's left of this transfer window.
Yeah, we'll get your view on that as well, Steve. Just on Cantwell, James, with the point he says, Cantwell becoming so annoying. This is after his latest Instagram cryptic message that he posted, I think yesterday or the day before. Don't understand any of it. Just the support, which is just one guy sitting in a stand, and then sort of the congratulations, which is a full stand. Don't understand the meaning behind that one, but there you go. But Hadji and Cantwell both have to go, Steve, as Chris says, differing situations where Hadji wants to play. We know that the wage issue, but he's not handed in a transfer request as Todd Cantwell has done. I think that's what we're now about 4 weeks since Philip Clement came into that press conference after to tell us the lay of the land with Cantwell, and still he hasn't been moved on. That is a concern.
Yeah, look, Yanis Hadji first. Yanis Hadji, nice guy, but chronically slow. Not good enough for how Philippe Clement wants to play. Rangers aren't going to take on that wage bill. They aren't going to pay, whatever's necessary. So I think it's best we just move him along. Again, I'm in the same bracket as Matondo. I would take anything really just to shift him, save the wage and move him along. I think that's really important. Cantwell, I think it's obvious what Cantwell's trying to say. He's trying to say that, when everything's good, everyone's with him and you get loads of support. And when it's not, he's not got anybody in his corner. You see, the bottom line is the Rangers support have been told that Todd Cantwell doesn't want to be here and he doesn't want to play for this club. Not once, but twice the manager went to him. We can only take that at face value. And whether we like it or not, people will go with what they've been told. So we currently been told that. So Cantwell having a straw up on social media and digging his heels in and not want to go or whatever isn't good for Rangers. And the ultimate fact is, at the end of the day, him and Hadji rotting in the B team is costing the club the best part of 50, 60 grand a week. And this is where it becomes problematic. And this is where, Rangers need to really move away. And to be fair, as I pointed out, they already are moving away from that scenario happening again. But this is a problem when you do hand them out. Cantwell will think to himself, why should I move until I'm ready, until I'm right? Hadji will think the exact same thing. As Philip Clement says, you can't put a gun to these players' heads. Now, the real issue is that if they're still here September and they're draining, that's the problem. So it's a real difficult one for Philip Clement. But I'm quite confident that we're going to finally see movement in the next couple of days with the kind of outcasted players. And I'm hopeful that we'll start maybe moving them on. It just seems so much of a coincidence that we're starting to get linked with players now as these boys get linked out. I think you're starting to see the kind of dominoes kind of fall and things move into place. That's certainly my hope. And listen, there's no hard feelings with anybody. Derek, see, at the end of the day, Rangers have given them these contracts and they're entitled. And that's absolutely fine by me. However, I understand the frustration, like James's comment and stuff like that. We just need to make sure we're not in this position again. In fairness, Coppin and Clement are doing that. But there was always going to be one or two that you maybe can't get rid of and have to wait and have to maybe put out on loan or whatever. So we'll just need to wait and see with that. But brutally honest, Matondo, Hadji, Cantwell, Ben Davies, I would even put a few others in that bracket as well. Earning far too much money off of Rangers for not enough quality in return. So, as brutal as it sounds, I'd take what I can get for any of them and move them on.
Yeah, I think that's the best for both. Just on his pace, CGM 55 says Hadji is Usain Bolt compared to Tom Lawrence. So there you go. I think both of them not blessed with pace, Stevie.
Aye, you may as well chuck me in there if you want a race of the speedy people. But no, I mean, being outspoken on Tom Lawrence as well. But it is what it is. Tom Lawrence, should be a 15, 20-minute player at most. Again, somebody getting an extraordinary amount of money for being at Rangers. So it is what it is. And Derek, we've spoke about this for a very long time, Derek, you and I. This suddenly isn't Stevie changing his tune over the summer. We've been talking about this for 6, 7, 8 months about the urgent need to restructure this club and ensure that these deals aren't getting handed out again. So there is obviously a wee bit of resentment towards these players who aren't providing. It would be all right, you could justify big wages if players were delivering week in, week out and competing and delivering trophies. When they don't, they are open to criticism, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, end of the day, they're going to have to look for clubs that are going to pay them in the region of what they're earning at Rangers as well. So I can understand why they're staying put at this moment in time and waiting for the best deal to come around. Right, let's move on to players that have been linked. We touched on yesterday the two wingers. Portuguese reports as well this morning that, last night, that another Benfica player by the name of Martin Neto is being made available for loan. Rangers said to be keen on the midfielder. Other clubs, Varense and I think Gil Vicente, I think that's how you pronounce it, also keen on him. He's 21 years of age. He's a central midfield player. Can't say I know too much about him, Chris. I've got to say, likewise, at the winger yesterday, Thiago Gouveia, apart from the time that he played against Rangers, of course, I think he came off the bench in that two-legged Europa League match last season. Gouveia, I'd be all for. He looks like it would be a real exciting talent. Not sure Rangers can pay the reported fee that Benfica are looking for, 78 million euros, although I think a loan would be more likely than not for him. But Rangers have made contact with Benfica on Gouveia. I'm not too sure about Neto, but are those players that excite you?
One I've heard of, the other one I'm completely in the dark over. Gouveia, as you say, Josh had a transfer update on the site yesterday, saying that Rangers have held talks with his camp to see if a deal can be done there. Other one, not aware of him at all. So I have to rely on Josh and Adam doing their scouting reports. If this boy ever signs, they can tell me all I need to know about him. I think it's interesting. You look at the profile of them, as Maka says there. It's younger players again. It's a lot of loan deals that have been spoken about now, and I think as Stevie's kind of spoken about previously, it sums up just where Rangers are in terms of this rebuild, this restructuring right now. It's going to be hard to go and spend £3-4 million on a handful of players because it's just not there. It's not there because of what's been spent before. It's not there because of what's being able to be brought in over the course of the summer. Rangers, they have taken a big chunk out of the wage bill. They've not brought a lot of money back into the club in terms of fees, and if that money is then not coming in and then can't go back out, so I don't think it's a surprise that we're seeing a lot of these loan deals that are just straight up loans. Maybe try and get a loan with an option or an obligation on some of them as well. So I think that's potentially going to be the market that we'll see Rangers going into over the next 7-8 days that's left of this window. It's getting to the desperate stage now, and Stevie outlined earlier on, still looking for 3-4. I think 3 and 4 would just about keep people happy. If it was 5 or 6, that would make people even more happy. You'd be surprised if Rangers go and do half a dozen deals over the next week or so. You're looking at trying to add those really important bits of quality. Ideally, you would spend a bit of money on them. You would get them tied down on contracts. You protect your investment. You protect your asset. At this stage, Rangers just need to do what they can do to try and get players in the door to give them a shot of trying to win the title this season, because what they've got at present is going to be nowhere near it. They're going to fall short. They won't get there. They have to do something, and if that is just plucking loan deals from around Europe just to try and beef up the squad and try and improve the team, then I think that's what they'll just have to do.
Yep, Gouveia, Josip Bricalo's the other one that was linked yesterday, Stevie, from Fiorentina, a Croatian international, another winger. It certainly looks like Rangers looking to bolster that area of the pitch. We know Oscar Cortez is out for some time. We touched on at the start of the show. Abdallah Sima has moved on as well, and we discussed Rabbit Matonto potentially leaving. Those players excite you?
define excite. Listen, I think you just need to trust that Niels Coppin and Philippe Clement know what they're doing, and that's it comes with its difficulty, because last year we were saying we just need to trust the management then of what they're doing. So I can't say I know enough. I can't say I've heard a lot about any of them, I've got to be honest. Bricalo, the boy, or Bricolo, how you pronounce him at Fiorentina, is probably the most I know, and his best form, I think, for Torino was as a number 10. So I don't want us to go.
Was he at Torino at some point? Yeah.
I might have just completely misread that, but I think that's he certainly had better form.
He was. Yep, he was.
See, I thought I was talking nonsense there.
Yes, you're bang on, Steve.
His best form was as a 10.
Yeah.
So I don't want us to go and get a 10 and shoehorn him into the left-hand side. I've seen too much of that, and it never really works. You'll see it in flashes about how players play well and do okay, but this might be an alien concept, but if they're looking for a left winger, just go and sign a left winger. And if you're looking for a 10, just go and get a 10. We can't afford to get these ones wrong. And I know what Chris is saying, and I agree with him to an extent of we might need to just do short-term deals to beef up the squad, and that's unfortunately because of the situation we're in. But what I'm hoping is, Derek, that this is the last summer where this level of turnover is required. If they do the donkey work at this moment in time, and that's what I would call it, when you're clearing out the squad and you're maybe getting little bits and places in, maybe when they get to January, they can go and get one. Next summer, they only really need 3 or 4. If you keep progressing the way it is, this has to be the last summer where it's going to be such a difficult one. And Chris is right. You might see some last-minute deals getting done where we're always our choice. But also, the other thing to remember is as well, looking at it differently, with only a week to go, teams will start really wanting rid of players, and it will start becoming obvious who isn't, interested or isn't, fancied by managements at other teams. So they might start suddenly becoming, available to us. So there's a lot that can happen on this kind of last week or so. So I'm still hopeful. I think hopeful is the right word, that there's still a lot more to do in this next week. Because let's be brutally honest, see if Chris is right, and we've said it before as well. See if they don't do business, right, and we're left with this squad and we're left with this options, then it won't do anything. It'll fall short. Clement might be able to get them in some sort of title race, but ultimately it'll end up being another 7 to 10 point gap minimum.
Yeah.
And that's the situation we're in, because the players are good, right? They're fine, but they're not good enough. That's the issue. And you've got players that can be enhanced by better players around them and things like that. And you do have a good few options in there that we can build upon, Sterling's, Diamandis, etc. But the issue is, unless they get players around them, Chris is bang on, they will fall short. So Rangers have got a lot of work to do, and with little time, and let's just hope they can.
Yep. Teams will be looking to get short players closer to the transfer window. I know Chelsea need to get rid of about 600 players. Dale Smith with the point here. I'd love to get your take on this. He says, Raheem Sterling, surplus to requirements at Chelsea. They're willing to cover most of his wages. No brainer for us. Like to see Raheem at Ibrox, Stevie?
Well, aye. I mean, who wouldn't? He's a winger though, so we'll probably play him at right back or something stupid.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, he would be ideal, but what's he on, 200 grand a week? When they say they're willing to cover most of his wages, are they willing to cover £199,000 of it? So, it was Chelsea though, they had a couple of good friendlies at us, don't they? I think they're more or less duty bound to send us some of their cash flows, aren't they? Like, fair.
It should be a feeder club to us. Yeah.
We'd happily accept that at this moment in time. You're right, they do have, what is it, something ridiculous like 44 players in their first team. So, going up to Ibrox for a wee season, that'll be fine by me.
Yeah. I'm sure Raheem's a good bear. So, if you're watching Raheem, then get your backside up to Ibrox. Speaking of Ibrox, before we wrap up, before we do that, I just want to say a shout out to Alex Kelly. Gets in touch. He says, "Happy 73rd birthday to Alex Kelly Senior, an avid listener to the Rangers Review. Happy birthday, Dad." Yeah, happy birthday, Alex. Hopefully you have a fantastic day. And thank you for tuning in as ever. And Alan Govan says, just on the state of play at this moment in time, he says, started going to games 69, 70. It's a lifetime commitment. Stop moaning. Think of the 90s. We'll be back. We'd love nothing more than to be transported back to the 90s. Absolutely. We were absolutely spoiled rotten then. And Hugh with the point here, just on Ibrox, says, be back at Ibrox home soon. Now, of course, Rangers taking on Dundee in the League Cup quarter final. It's a home tie, and Rangers tweeting out yesterday that that tie will be played on Saturday the 21st of September with a 5:30 p.m. kickoff, and they say the venue for this match will be confirmed in due course. So it may not be Hampden, it may be Ibrox, Chris. Now we've seen that the third shipment of steel has arrived and work is progressing quite quickly now on the Copeland Road stand. It would be fantastic if this Saturday was the last time we'd have to go to Hampden.
Certainly the last time until the semi-finals of a cup. This match, and hopefully it's not the last time this season. If it's the last time this season, then things have gone really badly for us. No, I think we're all in agreement that we just went back at Ibrox as quickly as possible. We've spoken a lot about this the situation over the last couple of months. It's not been good for the club. It's not been good for the team. It's been certainly not been good for the fans, and ultimately the fans are the ones that you feel the most sympathy for. They just went back in their seats. They just want to be back at Ibrox and watching their team. If that is as scheduled by the end of next month, then that would be great. The chairman outlined that timescale in his RTV interview a couple of weeks ago. Things have since then gone to plan, thankfully. As you mentioned, the steel is there. Things are progressing. So hopefully those timescales are on.
Oh, he's just frozen there, Chris. Hopefully we'll get him back. He needs to stick the old 50p in the meter. Lovely face there, Chris. But we'll get your thoughts. The Hampden experience, Stevie. You're chuckling away there. We can't wait to get back to Ibrox. It'll be such a boost getting back there, won't it?
Yeah, listen, I can give a wee bit of info on Ibrox and where we currently are. So people may be seeing the pictures that the steel is now back on the actual stand, and the next stage will be putting the seats on, and then they'll lift the concrete blocks into place. The concrete blocks where the disabled facilities will be will actually just get lifted in. They're pre-built. So once they're all in, then we're confident that that part of it should be done within the next week or so. Then it's inside the concourses, and they'll have 2 or 3 weeks for that to be done, and then they'll have 2 or 3 weeks for the pitch to be set. The crane should come off the pitch soon, and then it's just a case of that final little section of the pitch, because the rest of the pitch is completely sorted, but that little final section, which has had a cover and the crane on top of it, will need 2 or 3 weeks to set. So Dundee is 100% now a viable option for Rangers at home. And the good thing about that is they were already aiming to have Ibrox ready for the 25th when the Europa League group stages start. So we need to be able to have that done, all the certificates in place, so that we can say to UEFA we can play all our home games at home at Ibrox. So I think we're on course. The material's here. It should just be a case of really firing on with it now. And Rangers, even if Dundee comes around, the home game at Dundee, the League Cup, 43,000 capacities available without the Copeland Road being open. So it might be a case of, we are still tidying up the last few bits. And even if that's not quite there yet, the rest of the stadium can be open. So I am confident that Rangers are finally on the right track with Ibrox, and then we can just put this all behind us, get half a dozen players out and 3 or 4 in the next week. We'll all be laughing. Easy. Go Parkhead, get a result. You know what I mean? And then the boy that come on and said about us moaning and remember the 90s and that, we'll get him back on and he can tell us, I told you so. So, easy enough.
Well, there'll be a huge boost. So hopefully it all goes to plan. We're back at Ibrox, and this Saturday will be the last time that we have to go to Hampden as opposed to Ibrox, as Chris says. Yeah, you're hopefully making the semis and the final, and the semis and final of the Scottish Cup later on in the season. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to the boys as ever, Stevie and Chris. Just before we go, Chris, you've got a great interview with Robbie Fraser on the website this morning. What can people expect if they read that?
A great interview. No, it's really just going through Robbie's time at Rangers. I think it's well known that he's been here for a long time. So talking about his journey over the 14 years, a bit of insight into what the manager has said to him, what the manager's looking for from him, and I think as we discussed last week, he's someone who is going to have a part to play over these next few weeks, given the Ridvan situation. So I think it was 8 minutes that he got at the weekend. You would imagine he will get slightly more than 8 minutes over these next 4 to 6 weeks, as the manager has outlined on Ridvan. So good to see him getting that chance. We need more young players to be able to come through the ranks, and it's safe to say that Robbie has he certainly put in the years to get to where he is now.
Yeah, absolutely has. And that interview you can read, and there's a link in the description below this video, folks. So do go and check it out. Right, that'll do us there. Enjoy your Thursday, folks. We'll be back again tomorrow morning as we look ahead to that game against the Staggies. Okay, bye for now.